Well, I suppose that true to my Enneagram type, the type to which I affiliate, I really do enjoy helping people and really seeing them advance in achieving whatever they're trying to achieve, especially at work. Well, yeah. So, ironically, I laid myself off from AT&T. I was given an option of going into a totally different field and decided I didn't really want to go into finance. So I would take the very generous severance package and make a difficult decision to leave AT&T and enter the world of the unknown after September 11th. And ironically, I ended up going into that very field of laying people off, but from the opposite perspective of actually helping people who were being laid off. So I became an adjunct consultant with Lee Hecht Harrison, and for about a year would be helping people who were getting laid off in preparing for interviews, creating and developing their resumes, helping them with their strategies for which companies they would go after, uh, helping them with negotiation strategies for salaries when they actually got offers. So that was very interesting and ironic that I laid myself off and then went into the field of helping other people in reclaiming their lives and rebuilding their lives after they were laid off as well. So I didn't know anything about the Enneagram. Most of the tools that I was familiar with from my time at AT&T were really geared around the more well-known Myers-Briggs. So everyone knew Myers-Briggs. And I think everyone at AT&T in the AT&T Solutions group went through Myers-Briggs with the interns that came in and did the project with you guys. And I went to graduate school. In fact, I was going to graduate school with some of the interns that were in with AT&T Solutions. And one of the guest speakers that came into one of our classes was Helen Palmer, and she is one of the key seminal Enneagram theorists and propagators of the Enneagram. I wouldn't say she's necessarily a theorist because she didn't develop it, but she did definitely disseminate it. So she sparked my interest in talking about this interesting personality slash motivation typing system. And of course, I wanted to be an Enneagram Type 7, which I think most people want to be. Although I really was not, and everyone else that knew me from the program said that nope, I wasn't a 7. I was probably more affiliated with Type 2, which after a lot of kicking and screaming, I did finally agree with. So there are many different types of personality typing systems or assessments that people can do, self-assessments. So people most likely know Myers-Briggs, or maybe they've done DISC. And the interesting thing is that they are all correlated. And the interesting other part of it is that the Enneagram actually goes a lot deeper. It's not just about personality, but it's about the motivation behind the behaviors. So understanding what motivates you and what can trigger you in both positive and negative ways is really important for A, self-awareness, but also B, if you know this about yourself and you can figure out that other people are different and will behave differently and are motivated by different things, then you can change the way that you interact with them so expectations are in line with getting a better result and having a better relationship with them. And that I think was one of the key things is understanding that we were always taught about the golden rule, and the golden rule is do unto others the way you'd have done unto you. But the reality is the platinum rule is it supersedes everything, and the platinum rule is more along the lines of the Enneagram is you figure out how others want to be treated and you treat them the way they want to be treated, because not everyone wants to be treated the same way you do. Mhm. So it was actually a very big learning, a very big lesson for me in identifying that there are healthy and unhealthy states of each of the Enneagram types, and we all have a lifelong journey in developing ourselves. Originally, the Enneagram was intended to have a more spiritual development purpose, and then there have been many more applications for it. But for personal development, it really is looking at and understanding the fact that I want to make sure that whenever I do help, it's really from a magnanimous point of view, or a magnanimous center, rather than expecting something in return, because that's when you get disappointed and frustrated, and that's not a healthy point. So helping people for the sake of helping people without expecting them to love you or like you or give you something in return is the ultimate learning for the type 2. And also the other thing to really, really learn for the type 2 is that you can't forget yourself in the process. You can't always be looking at how to help other people. You always have to, like for the analogy of in an airplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on first so that you can help other people. Because if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, then you're not going to be able. Yeah, it depends on really what you're trying to accomplish. So a lot of times people will use, or groups and teams will use the Enneagram to help in team development. So we do not use the Enneagram to hire people into organizations. It's, especially in the United States, it's illegal and unethical in some respects, because any person can be successful in any job if they put their mind to it and if they aspire to it. Yes, there are archetypes that are probably more prone to be more successful in certain roles based on their predispositions and their strengths. However, if they don't care to apply those strengths and they really don't care about that job, they're not going to be successful in it. Whereas someone else that will build that strength up or develop that muscle can be more successful than they are. So that's a reason why you don't want to do it as a pre-screening, pre-employment. However, it's really helpful to figure out what your coworkers are when you're on a team, so that you know how to best work with each other, how to best communicate and influence each other, what hot buttons not to push. So that's so either companies can sponsor the team going through a team development initiative by doing the Enneagram together. People can do them individually through executive coaching, or if the company isn't supportive of that, there's plenty of different resources that are available online where you can pretty much figure out, or have some help in figuring out your Enneagram type. There are some that are better than others, and in the book I do call out one that I'm particularly fond of because it's very valid and reliable, and that's Integrative. So it's I'll put a plug for them, integrative.co.za. It's a great company out of South Africa that has the I believe the most valid assessment, which will let you know what your Enneagram type is. So the one warning that I have is that I don't want to be, have a hammer and then go around and say everything's a nail. So everything's going to be cured with the Enneagram. So you really have to go in with a consultative mindset and figure out what exactly is going on and which tool is the most appropriate to use in that organization. The beauty of the Enneagram is that it does correlate with most of the other organization development interventions already on the market. And what the book that I put together discusses is that maybe you don't want to use the Enneagram for everything, but if you only want to learn one system and one tool, you could really apply it into all of the different challenges that organizations face. So I wasn't planning on writing a book. I was basically taking my knowledge that I was generating from the workplaces that I was working in, and models and patterns that I was seeing and ways of using the Enneagram in organizations, and how I saw the overlap between other tools that existed, and making those connections and presenting those connections that I saw at Enneagram conferences, at international Enneagram conferences. And it was when I was doing those that people would come up to me afterwards and say, "Wow, this is really cool. When is the book coming out?" And I kept saying, "What book?" So they said, "Well, why don't you write a book about this?" And so, it can perpetuate and it can be there, and people reach greater audience and help a larger number of people. So I took that to heart, and I basically took all of the different work that I had put into the presentations that I was making at the different Enneagram conferences, and each became a different chapter. My dissertation became a chapter because my PhD dissertation was on the Enneagram and how to help organizations in attracting, retaining, and motivating employees. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. I really didn't think that it was very much of a challenge. I mean, yes, it was time consuming, and working a full time job and working on the book in the evenings or on the weekends or on time off was definitely, it definitely took up a lot of time. But most of the work was already done because I had already put all the stuff together. All the content was in PowerPoint presentations. A lot of the, obviously, my dissertation was already done. So one chapter was pretty much already done. All I had to do was get and copy and make some changes there. So all of the work was 20 years worth of work was pretty much already done because I already had it in presentations that I made in different conferences and even in training classes that I delivered in organizations. So a lot of the content came from that because of all the overlap. Yeah, John, you're absolutely spot on with that. So we talked already that the Enneagram really had its beginnings in spiritual development and how it's transcended that into pretty much, well, it's in a whole bunch of different ways. Personal development was the easiest transition there, but you actually see it not only in personal development and now business, because lots of corporations are seeing the value of the Enneagram. I know, for example, Genentech and Salesforce.com use it as a standard for their infrastructure. And other companies are probably a little more reluctant to dive into it, um, because again, it's not as well known as some of the other systems, and it's not as well known in the business domain as some of the other systems are, and it still has the name and the affiliation with the spirituality, and even the symbol can be a little bit daunting. And people make some allusions to being part of a cult, and it looks satanic and things along those lines. But it's not. It's a Sufi symbol, so it doesn't have any other implications that way. But you're absolutely right. It can be a little difficult to integrate into the workplace. And in one of the chapters, I talk about the easiest way to have it be adopted and integrated into the workplace by managers who can see its value is by asking them to teach it to the facilitator. So by simply, one of the exercises is simply just drawing a circle on a whiteboard or a flip chart and putting the 9 numbers all around it, and then asking the simple question, what motivates people? So obviously, retention and engagement is a huge issue in organizations today. And understanding what motivates their employees is a huge aha, an enlightening moment for people. So by them thinking about it and by telling you what motivates, the different things that motivate people, is a great exercise because they start thinking about it, and then the facilitator just goes around, that's the facilitator that knows about the Enneagram. Whatever the audience tells you, these managers are telling you, you basically allocate them to the appropriate Enneagram type. So as soon as the managers see that this fills out into this cohesive symbol, this system, and then makes sense because you're seeing these words, these concepts that are grouped together into these 9 buckets, and you understand, oh, these are these 9 primary motivations for people. And guess what? Different people are motivated by different things. Of course, the first answer that you always get when you ask what motivates people is, what is it? Exactly. You're absolutely right. That's the first answer that I always get when I do that exercise. And it's you allocate that appropriately to type 3. That's a stereotype, but still, it serves the purpose of teaching the Enneagram and having the group, the managers, the leaders, and the audience teach the Enneagram to each other because they know it innately, and they just don't know that they know it, and they don't know the systemic way of representing it. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of resistance right now with Myers-Briggs. I mean, you see lots of articles on Myers-Briggs that say, "Oh, Myers-Briggs is horrible and it doesn't work and it's not valid and this and that and the other." And the reality is that Myers-Briggs is valid. It does describe certain personalities, 16 different personalities, but the use of it is what the problem is. People are using it wrong or in wrong ways, wrongly. The If people are using Myers-Briggs and saying, well, these are your 4 letters and therefore you have to be a librarian or a construction worker or a astronaut, then that is the wrong use of Myers-Briggs. And I really am a strong advocate for saying that career development wise, whatever your Myers-Briggs type is should not dictate where you go into. It's an interesting exercise to figure out your preferences, but that's not necessarily where you'll be most successful if you don't want to be that. Um, so when people start seeing systems like that and saying, oh yeah, this is another Myers-Briggs, so I don't believe in it, there's all these articles that say it doesn't work, then you get the whole problem of, well, how is it going to be adopted? How is it going to be integrated? How are they going to accept it? So by having the managers, like in the process that I just explained about having them come up with the answers and then see how it all fits together and then how they connect with all the different wings and arrows and stress points and comfort points, and see how it really all makes sense and how it's all tied together by development and how you've mastered what comes to counterclockwise and you need to work with what's clockwise to get your development. It just opens their eyes and they're really amazed. And ultimately, when they start understanding their spouse or their partner by saying, oh, that's why I'm having difficulties, or that's why I can't work with this person, or it's challenging, then you start seeing some of the ahas and realizations. Yeah, so with executive coaching, you get lots of those examples when you work with someone over time and you can use different instruments. And if they end up doing the Enneagram, then they get a lot more insight into themselves. So there was this one client who really struggling in some relationships and not understanding why she was being frustrated by certain people and why she wasn't getting through and why she wasn't being effective and successful in certain areas. And then by looking at the Enneagram and seeing how her type was playing out and how she was fixating on certain needs that her type was demanding of her, that was an aha. But what was really even more of an aha was her going back and talking to her family and asking her mother and her partner what their insights were after she revealed to them the insights that she got from taking the assessment. And they just basically said, yeah, that's exactly what's been going on, but no one ever really told her that. So no one told her about all these complications or difficulties or challenges that she was having based on her worldview, which was fixated on the type that she was affiliating with. Well, exactly. I mean, the whole point is if everyone who's an entrepreneur is a salesperson, well, everyone's a salesperson. And by understanding if you have enough insight or enough experience or relationship with someone to understand what what's in it for them or what their pain points are or what they're always concerned about, and you can make that mental note and say, oh, then I need to make sure that I'm eliminating this challenge for them or that I'm addressing this point because that's what's really important to them. And the Enneagram can help do that because if you know what their Enneagram type is, then you know how to approach someone, which, approaching I can even go 1 through 9 to talk about what those are. So that's a very interesting question, and it's interesting that you brought up the point of a filmmaker because one of the most interesting applications of the Enneagram that I've come across involved in the Enneagram community and going to Enneagram conferences is actually seeing consultants who are paid by filmmakers to make sure that the characters that are being portrayed in the film or the comedy or the sitcom or whatever it is are true to their type so that when audience members see that person on screen, they can still suspend their disbelief that this is a film, that this is, they're getting drawn into it. So making sure that however the character portrayed is true to however their Enneagram type would be um, playing out. So that's a very interesting point. And I would go as far as to say that I think filmmakers I'm not quite sure that they are concerned. Well, I don't know because I'm not a filmmaker, but I don't know if they're truly concerned as artists about pleasing the audience as much as about getting their point of view across. So their perspective or their view. So I think that we get more of an insight into the filmmaker's psyche, motivations, psychology, etc., by viewing the film. I don't think it's unless it's like a mass consumption, car chases and explosions and things like that, which are totally meant for, blockbusters and mega millions. Right. So a couple different ways. So number one, knowing your own type is part of emotional intelligence. It's self-awareness is really part of emotional intelligence. So understanding the strengths that you have, and by the way, if you overuse those strengths, how they become weaknesses. So catching yourself before your strengths become weaknesses is huge for especially an entrepreneur, right? Because they are dependent on themselves. They may not have a large staff, a large group of people that they can have confidants that can catch them and tell them what's being perceived wrongly or differently or annoyingly. So that's one point. The other point is understanding that if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner and you have needs to have customers and customers are diverse. The customers are going to have all the different Enneagram types out there. So understanding how to work with vendors and suppliers and partners and customers who may come from a different perspective than yours, than your own, that's going to be huge because then you can make sure that you're being as effective as possible in your interpersonal dynamics with them and your interpersonal relationships with them. So, for example, I'm going to quickly go around the Enneagram. So if you have a coworker, a partner, a vendor, a customer who's a type 1, the type 1 is going to be very interested in ethics and doing the right thing and that things don't have errors in them. Very high quality orientation. So working with someone who's a type 1 or having a customer who's a type 1, you're going to want to make sure that you're emphasizing those qualities of whatever product you're making. So the type 2 is going to be much more interested in the relationships and the connection and how helpful is this for the world or for others. So how does it help? How does it connect? How does it relate? The type 3 is going to be all about efficiency. It's going to be about image. It's going to be about how can your product or your service help make me look better to my peers, to my boss, to my company? And how is it going to make my life easier and more, how's it going to help me get my goals and reach my goals faster and more effectively and more efficiently? Exactly. And if you don't know what type your customer is because you don't have a long-term relationship with them, or they don't know the Enneagram and you don't know it well enough either, which by the way, we shouldn't be going around guessing other people's Enneagram types. That's not what the Enneagram is about. But if you can make sure that whatever your marketing is or your product is, that it addresses all nine of the concerns, all nine of the motivations, so that anyone out there would say, this is the product for me, because it is the most ethically built and the most highest quality, and it does the right thing, or it helps me to connect, it helps me to help people, it helps me to get things done more efficiently. It is the most unique. The four would be about being unique and special and beautiful. It is the most aesthetically pleasing product out there. It really stands out. And for the five, it would be about, this is the most logical choice. It's the best product. It's the most logical. It has all the research. It's been researched well. It's been developed well. It has all the background that it needs to have. So this is the right choice. And the six would be about, well, this is going to help keep me safe. It's going to help keep me secure. It's not going to fail. There's a backup to it. It's going to definitely be something that I can rely on. And the seven is going to be all about, well, this is going to be fun. It's going to create options and possibilities for me, and it's not going to limit me. So this is the product for me. And the eight would be all about, well, I have full scope and authority and control over this product. I don't think anyone else can take it from me, or or would want to take it from me, because it's mine, and it's something that I can control, and I can execute with it. I can delegate with it. It's a strong, powerful symbol for me, and I can get my work done with it. And the nine would be all about, well, it's green, it's sustainable, it's systemic, it fits everything in one nice system, and it doesn't really go against much. It's not too different from everything else. It's not going to create too much change. It's the perfect product. Yeah. So what you're actually calling out is something that's in one of the chapters. It's about different companies and how they target different people. So for example, Lexus, their tagline used to be the relentless pursuit of perfection. So I tend to see lots of Enneagram type ones driving the Lexus car because it's all about perfection. It's the perfect car, right? So BMW is the ultimate driving machine. So that's performance, and you see lots of Type threes driving BMWs. So the marketing and the brand and the image that's created by the company is, whether they intended it or not, is really reaching certain Enneagram types probably more so than others. So I actually think the book would help them out a lot, because the book shows all the different elements of an organization development strategy, including strategic planning. So someone who's an entrepreneur that maybe hasn't even come up with a strategic plan can use the book and use the Enneagram to walk through the steps of a strategic planning process to help them in identifying, what is this vision of what I'm trying to accomplish? What is my mission? What are my how is that going to work in with the organization? What other competitors are there? Let me do my market research and figure out what's going on out there. So walking step by step through the entire strategic planning process and identifying what their unique value is, and what the niche market that they can get into, and the product or service that they can provide that's different from anyone else, or any other persons or companies. So that definitely is something that they can use the for in helping them in the rudimentary fundamentals and foundational parts of their plans, their business plans. And also, I would think that looking at it from a standpoint of, well, how do I reach my target market or my target audience? And how do I use my marketing to reach all these different Enneagram types that are out there who are buyers, who are potential customers? So, and then hopefully when they're business and they end up hiring people, can use the Enneagram in the development of their teams and understanding each other. Yeah, so and in conflict resolution and in innovation, we used the to help drive more innovation in the company in which I currently in looking at how do we take down some of these stumbling blocks and how do we help people identify this blueprint for innovation so that they know how far they can go without having whatever limits they think that they have on them. Mhm. Well, I do have a website. It's performandfunction.com. So Formand. Thanks, John. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing in helping entrepreneurs get out there and get their message out and be successful.